Pennhurst State School and Hospital was a facility in Pennsylvania established in 1908 to care for people with mental health problems. Gradually, the institution became infamous for the abusive and inhumane conditions that the residents had to endure. These included overcrowding, understaffing, unsanitary facilities, and widespread use of restraints. Such conditions were exposed in 1968 through a television documentary, Suffer the Little Children. It helped bring public awareness to the maltreatment of Pennhurst residents. Despite some reforms, these mistreatments persisted, eventually leading up to the 1974 Halderman vs. Pennhurst lawsuit. Case begins when former resident Terry Lee Halderman reported severe abuse and neglect at the institution, prompting her family to file a class action lawsuit. Attorney David represented the plaintiffs, arguing Pennhurst residents had constitutional rights to proper care, freedom from harm, and non-discriminatory treatment, which were all violated. The court found that Pennhurst had indeed failed its residents. Welcome to the first episode of the Rume Rundown. We'll be discussing topics from true crime and conspiracy theories to debates and controversial topics. And if you're someone interested in these topics, please follow up with each episode and subscribe if you would like to. We'll be posting on YouTube and we're going to post clips on other social media. Okay. Listener discretion is strongly advised. If you or someone you know are going through some mental health issues, reach out for help. Support resources are going to be linked down below this video. Terry Lee Halderman was born on July 29, 1953 in Philadelphia. She began experiencing brain damage right after birth. During our research on this topic, we couldn't really find reasons why. It was pretty unclear on how these damages even occurred in the first place. These left her with severe intellectual and development impairments. Later on, however, she gained the physical strength and mobility as she got older, but it wasn't enough for her to take care of herself. In 1966, at the age of 11, because her family was unable to meet her needs at home, she was enrolled into the Pennhurst State School and Hospital. Almost every week, her mother would visit her, and she'll realize that her daughter's condition was slowly deteriorating. There was multiple reports of her banging her head against the wall, and this caused her to be verbally mute. There were multiple lacerations on her forehead, head, and around her chin. So lacerations are actually caused when the skin or the tissue are torn or cut by blunt trauma or sharp objects. Not only that, but she was also bitten by other residents, and there were multiple burnt marks on her body. Okay, you may be asking, where the hell are the staff members in all of this? Well, they're completely useless, okay? They're inhumane animals. You know what? They can't even be compared to animals, okay? I'm sorry if this sounds really mean, but to neglect her to a point where these injuries are even occurring repeatedly is crazy, because these injuries could have been avoided easily. On October 26, 1971, Terry had suffered multiple jaw injuries. Before consulting a doctor, the staff members decided it would be a good idea to pull out a broken cartilage, which they believed to be a tooth. This caused a lot of bleeding and pain to Terry. But instead of calling for help like a normal person would do, you would think in this situation they would consult a doctor after all this. No, they decided to hold a cold compressant against her face. I'm actually speechless, because they are so-called professionals that are supposed to take care of these residents. I feel like I could do a better job. I could definitely do a better job taking care of these residents, because what are you doing, brother? What are you doing? On June 15, 1973, Terry fractured her left toe. She was barefoot because of the lack of shoelaces on her shoes, causing her to trip and fall. During this time, no one was around to witness this incident, and no one was there to help her. You would think that after all these traumatic experiences, there would be an end to it. She gained a stomach disease because of the non-pure food she was given. There were also constant occurrences where she would get beaten by other residents and no staff would come to her aid. Her mother had communicated with various officials and people in positions of responsibility, but nothing was done, so they decided to sue Pennhurst, finally, to reform it. For the next few clips, I keep referring Dr. Justia as a woman, but it's actually a man, so I apologize for that. Okay, let's move on to talking about Dr. Justia. She was a doctor that worked in the Pennhurst State School and Hospital. Kind of ironic, because her name is literally Dr. Fear. Born on December 30th, 1910 in Browntown, Pittston Township, Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. She obtained a medical degree in June of 1936 at the University of Georgetown, Washington, D.C. Okay, I have a list of the things she would do to patients, which was so dehumanizing. She removed teeth from patients that were considered biters, as if that would resolve the issue. Dr. Fear's aim was to cause a sense of isolation and ridicule from the patient's peers, humbling them into submission. Another device that Dr. Fear would employ on a misbehaving patient is by injecting a substance. It was administered as the most painful injection.
How else do you deal with patients that are hyperactive?
I have given some of them intravenous pentobarbital sodium on occasion. Otherwise, they would do harm to themselves and others.
In other words, you drug them.
Absolutely.
So the facility was actually designed to house only around 500 residents, but by the end of the 1950s, they were accommodating over 3,500 individuals. So imagine how overcrowded that is. In school, right? In our school, particularly, we have about 4,000, close to 5,000 students. And could you not, if I had 4,000 students that were crazy, they were going insane around me, I mean, I would probably be insane myself. Absurd. And especially when the staff count in this hospital, right, it was so low compared to patients. So they were understaffed as well. With the mistreatment and inhumane living conditions at Pennhurst State School and Hospital, Halderman, along with other residents, sued Pennhurst and wanted to be reimbursed, which is valid because why are these people getting mistreated when they are mentally unstable? They came here for help and boom. Instead of getting help, they get more trauma. The case of Pennhurst State School and Hospital versus Halderman is a significant example of American disability rights law. On behalf of Terry representing other victims, Terry Lee Halderman filed a lawsuit against Pennhurst, claiming that the facility had neglected, abused, and provided poor treatment. So the Pennhurst residents had a right to proper care, and the institution's actions violated their constitutional rights, as well as those protected by state and federal law. Many of these residents were subjected to physical restraints, isolation, and a lack of medical and educational support from the staff. The facility's conditions were characterized as filthy, dangerous, and overcrowded. As a result, the Supreme Court decided that the 11th Amendment prevented federal courts from enforcing state law in federal cases. In the end, the lawsuit resulted in Pennhurst's closure and heightened the support for disability rights. And that would be the end of episode 1. Thank you for listening along as we uncover the dark history of the Pennhurst Asylum. The exposure of its inhumane conditions helped ignite a movement towards deinstitutionalization and better advocacy, reminding us of the critical need for compassion, inclusion, and equality. The story challenges us to question how we treat the most vulnerable among us. It serves as a stark lesson. History must not repeat itself. Until next time, stay tuned for the next episode.